Hey everybody, we're back. We're back. It is Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Back with the economic supervision shades and also the headset. I've got a washer and dryer going in the background, so this cuts out the noise a little bit better. That's right. I'm so successful and wealthy. I've got to share my recording studio with a washer and dryer. Can you believe it? Crazy, right? Folks, we got a lot of news to catch up on, a lot of information and analysis I want to bring you here and kind of give you the big picture, the big snapshot on what's happening in this economy in the US, but this is worldwide, folks. We actually have countries now, many countries cutting rates. In the US, they would really like to be cutting rates, but you have this nasty cost of living slash inflation number. They just will not let that happen. But here's what happened. Surge in the stock market for all the wrong reasons. Dow Jones up over 400 points as April jobs report bolsters Fed rate cut. Folks, so we're living in an age where bad news is good news. So bad economic news, the jobs numbers, is going to equal a better economy because now they'll have a reason to cut rates, right? Do you see how silly and insane this whole thing is? So the markets are praying for easy money, aka rate cuts, and we need bad economic numbers for the Fed to justify rate cuts so we can have a better economy. So we need a bad economy. Bad things need to happen to have a better economy down the road, right? You see where all this leads? This is just going to lead to more debt. Why do low rates help the economy? Why? Because people can borrow more money. So in other words, more debt accumulation over here is going to make a better number over here, the gross domestic product. They could say, look at the retail spending, and therefore, when people spend more, then there's more jobs created because more companies need to hire to cover the higher demand for more people spending. You see how insane this is, folks? This is all enabled by more debt. It's all about the debt, folks. And we also have the unemployment rate ticking up to 3.9%, which is actually still low. Anything below 4% is considered low to a lot of people. But here's the thing, it's only low for the wrong reasons, right? There's hundreds of, I should say, there's hundreds of thousands of people out of the labor force. They're not even counting as unemployed. A lot of them you see on the tents across different cities across the USA, a lot of them living with relatives, a lot of them living in their cars. A lot of them are lucky enough to have some sort of paycheck to live off of because they were old enough, right, to get Social Security or whatnot. But folks, this is not good. In fact, if you look at the labor force participation rate, it reveals a pretty ugly truth here. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. And sorry, I should have had this loaded up here for you. All right, so tell me how this works. Unemployment's been low for a while now, but if you look at the labor force participation rate, let's zoom in here to a 10-year chart. Why do we see it spike up in 2020? It came down a little bit, but we're still way above where we were prior to 2020. So this is not a recovery, folks. This is a recovery of falsifying data. That's what the recovery is. It's a recovery of falsifying data. That's what the economy is. It's falsified data. It's phony numbers, cherry picked numbers. And according to MSN, we've reached a milestone for low unemployment, right? So now we've got these people out here, people that belong to like a political party. They say, oh, my president had lower unemployment for longer, better than your president, right? Um, but folks, it's not even about the president. It's about banks loaning out money. Whoever is in power and whoever can, I shouldn't say can because they don't really control it. Whoever has uh, a position during the time when banks loan out the most money, that's what's going to be looked at as the better economy. That's going to be the lowest unemployment. That's going to be the most consumer spending, obviously, because everybody's borrowing money. Um, a lot of people are surprised right now that any spending is happening considering the rise in interest rates. Of course, it's still happening because the banks are still giving out credit, so people still have money to spend. But when you look at the way money's being spent, it's mostly borrowed money. It's people pulling from their savings, their 401ks, etc. Now, the next shoe to drop that a lot of us have been waiting for is going to be homeowners putting their home on the market, emergency home sales and fire sales, right? Because people are going to get in such dire financial straits. Well, a couple of things out on that here recently. We've got out of Florida, they're finally starting to admit that home prices are overpriced in Florida, right? It's been really hard to find people to admit that homes are overpriced when obviously they're overpriced. But here's the story out of Florida. And here's how Fortune is reporting this. Study finds South Florida homes are 35% overvalued. Sparks bubble worries. Folks, the bubble has been worse than 2008 for years now, right? But it's only at this time with mortgage rates that have been higher for a year, that people are starting to realize that, hey, demand is slowing down. It's starting right now in Texas and in Florida because those states saw the big influx of people in 2020. And it always begins somewhere, right? It's usually never all parts of the country start imploding at once. It's usually one state. Remember the housing crisis, 2007, 8, 9, housing bubble going bust. That started in California, started on the coastal states. Are Texas and Florida indicating the future direction for the overall housing market, right? So very interesting that we're seeing articles like that starting to come out here. But something else I wanted to talk about today, more of reality, economic reality is being reported in the news. Here's CNBC, right? Usually CNBC doesn't go out and say what's really happening. Hundreds of U.S. banks may be at risk of failure. I think they should take the word may out of there. There's definitely banks going to be failing, but will they be bought out? Will they be allowed to fail? Will the depositors still be covered, even though FDIC doesn't have enough money to cover even 2% of all the deposits in banks right now? Will they just create the money over at the Fed and the Treasury? They're going to get together and still rescue everybody. So yes, banks are going to fail. Certain banks now, some won't be allowed to fail. Of course, we know the big mega banks will not be allowed to fail. But at least they're putting it out there, on a mainstream business news channel like CNBC. We have a foreclosure moratorium happening in Hawaii. I mean, if anybody needs it, Hawaii does. Over there where the fires happen. So we've got these homeowners that they can't pay, even if if they paid off their mortgage, they're still at risk for foreclosure because you have to pay Uncle Sam every year. Remember, you never own anything. It's you're paying rent to Uncle Sam, right? It's owning still better than renting in most cases. If the bubble keeps going higher, then owning is better than renting. But ultimately, you're still renting. You're just paying uh, the landlord named Uncle Sam. Basically, that's what it is, right? It's good if you can get equity and then sell the home at the right time and take some profits. That's something you can't do while you're renting. But then again, I've talked to people that rented and the money they saved, some people anyways, they were able to invest that and make tons more than they would have if they would have owned a home, right? I know somebody personally that invested in crypto way back, and they were renting. And what they told me is if they would have not been renting, if they would have been stuck with a high payment, they wouldn't have had money to invest. And this guy made, I don't know if it was a million, but he made a lot of money on cryptos, and that wouldn't have been possible if he was um, stuck in a high cost mortgage, right? In some cases, I remember you used to be able to buy a home in California, and it was cheaper than renting when I first moved out here. It was actually cheaper than renting. Now, not so much. I mean, rents are high and home prices are high, but rent's not much cheaper than it was than owning a home now. Pretty crazy. Something else here on the fast food topic here. I've been talking about fast food a lot lately. I know the McDonald's shut down over alleged rat infestation. And it got me wondering, because I talked about I'm not going to eat any fast food anymore because I'm kind of protesting the high prices. I told you I bought a new grill. So I've been keeping an eye on these types of news topics lately. There's so many benefits to not eating fast food. Not only is it not healthy, not only is it expensive now, it used to be considered cheap. Where's the dollar menu? Is there any dollar menus left anymore? Now you might have a special ingredient on your sandwich. I shouldn't say now because rat infestation should have been, it's been around for a while. But in this day and age, we still have rat infestation. So another McDonald's being shut down. This is Oakland, California. And it just made me happy again that I've ditched fast food and decided to do more cooking and grilling at home. All right, something else here. We've got yields dropping, the 10-year yield dropping. So we have a big buyer of debt out there. It's got to be none other than the central bank. I think we all know that. The interesting part is, though, their balance sheet shows continued declines. All right. So bring it up here out of Wolf Street. Balance sheet shows continued decline. So who's buying the debt? Are they not reporting this correctly? Because we know foreigners in foreign countries are not buying the debt like they used to, right? They're actually de-dollarizing. So I don't think it's the foreign countries that are absorbing all this debt or buying these bonds to keep rates suppressed. It's got to be the central bank, folks. I don't even believe the charts anymore. And I know some of you might even laugh at me for believing the charts in the first place, right? Don't believe anything these people tell us when it comes to to the government. But if they're fun to look at, and even if charts are flawed and misrepresenting the real thing, it's still good to look at to show a trend, right? Because even false numbers will show a direction, even if they're way too low or too high, depending on which way you're looking at it. Study finds renting is cheaper than buying a home in all 50 states. The question is, how much cheaper, right? If you're paying $30 a month less to rent and you could have bought a home for only $30 a month more, I think that's a bad trade-off. I think you probably should have bought a home, except for right now. I probably wouldn't buy a home right now. Not that there aren't people buying homes right now. There's people buying homes right now that are doing very well financially. And they'll be fine, right? But not everybody needs to get over leveraged and buy a home. If you have to get a down payment assistance program to be able to get into a home, it's probably not a good idea. I'm not giving advice. There's probably some people watching that may have done that exact same thing, and you may be just fine. I'm just saying in general, you may want to be careful. But there is this fear. There is this fear of runaway inflation, runaway home prices, etc., going into the stratosphere and never coming back, because people see what's happened in other countries. They see the Zimbabwe's, they see the Venezuelas, they see the hyperinflationary situations come out, and they're afraid that could happen here. So there is FOMO. There is people jumping into homes right now, even in California, because they figure it's now or never, right? But if you have a job that's recession proof, even if home prices come down, you're going to be fine. If you got a nice place to live and you like your home and you can still afford the monthly payment. The problem is when we see, if and when we see this whole thing implode, there's a lot of job losses. And what people thought was recession proof, a lot of times end up being not recession proof, and they get a shock, right? So are we headed for that? Who knows? I'm stacking either direction. I'm waiting for more inflation. I've got some cash for deflation. I've got my plan A, B, and C. Plan A, plan B, plan C, all the above. I hope you do the same. Prepare for everything, folks, and keep an eye on this channel. We're going to keep an eye on the latest news, the topics, the report, to keep you ahead of the financial curve, everybody. Please make sure you subscribe. Come back for more. Keep stacking, everybody. Bye for now. Peace.